1 year later, Dalian Park stood in the center of the greatest construction project in galactic history. The central hub stretched out in all directions around her, a massive space station bigger than Earth's moon. Through the transparent walls, she could see dozens of wormhole gates spinning slowly in their cradles, each one a doorway to different parts of the galaxy. "Final systems check complete," announced Min-Ho Song from the main control room. He was now chief engineer of the Galactic Wormhole Authority, a job that didn't exist a year ago. All 200 gates are operational and stable. Dayun smiled as she watched ships from hundreds of different worlds passing through the portals. Vorthak crystal vessels, Luminari energy ships, hegemony war machines, and dozens of species she had never seen before. All of them using human technology to travel instantly across impossible distances. "Director Park," said a familiar voice behind her. She turned to see Tae-Ho Kim approaching with a tablet full of reports. He was now director of interspecies engineering, another job that had been created just for him. "Morning report?" she asked. "The best kind," Tae-Ho grinned. "Gate traffic is up 300% from last month. The Andromeda Express route is so popular we're building 5 more gates to handle the traffic. And the Vorthak just requested permission to build gates in their home galaxy." Their home galaxy? Not just their home system? Apparently, seeing wormhole technology work has inspired them to think bigger. They want to connect their entire galaxy to our network. Da-Un shook, her head in amazement. A year ago, the Vorthak were trying to shut down human research. Now they wanted to use human technology to revolutionize their entire civilization. "What about the Academy?" she asked. "Full waiting list," Tae-Ho replied proudly. "We have young scientists from 800 different species wanting to study impossibility engineering. Professor Bora says she needs 10 more lecture halls just to handle the enrollment." Through the hub's main windows, Da-Un could see the newest addition to their growing complex. The Impossible Academy was a beautiful building that seemed to twist and bend in ways that shouldn't work. It was designed by Jinwoo using his latest metamaterials, materials that made the building exist in 4 dimensions at once. "Speaking of Bora," Tae-Ho continued, "she wants to talk to you about the new project." "New project?" "Something about parallel universe communication. She says if we can fold space, maybe we can fold dimensions too." Dayun laughed. "Of course, she does. Let me guess, the other species are saying it's impossible?" "Actually, no, that's what's funny. After what we did with wormholes, nobody wants to be the civilization that says something is impossible anymore. The Luminari are already offering to fund the research." They walked through the hub's main corridor, past shops and restaurants run by beings from dozens of worlds. A year ago, these species barely talked to each other. Now they were neighbors sharing food, culture, and ideas across the galaxy. "How's Professor Jinwoo doing with the materials research?" Da-Yun asked. "He's teaching 500 students at once," Tae-Ho replied. "Turns out when you show atoms how to think differently, you can create materials for any purpose. The hegemony wants to use his techniques to build living cities. The Vorthak want to grow crystal ships that repair themselves." They passed the communication center, where Hyejin Nam was coordinating with traffic control stations across 200 star systems. Through the open door, Da-Yun could hear her speaking in 6 different languages to alien controllers. And, "Hyejin? She's become the most important person in the galaxy," Tae-Ho said. "Every message, every emergency, every piece of news goes through our communication network. She probably knows more about what's happening in the galaxy than most governments do." They reached Da-Un's office, a simple room with a desk and chair, and a view of the wormhole gates. On her desk was a message crystal, the kind used for official communications between species governments. "What's this?" she asked. "Invitation to the Galactic Council's emergency session," Tae-Ho replied. "They want to discuss new expansion projects." Da-Yun activated the crystal. The familiar forms of Speaker Vex Therian, Flow Singer Radnileth, and Prime Constructor Helix 9 appeared as holograms. "Director Park," Speaker Vex Therian began, his crystal voice much warmer than it had been a year ago. "The Council has voted unanimously to approve funding for Project Infinity." "Project Infinity? Flow Singer Radnilith's energy form pulsed with excitement. A wormhole network connecting every galaxy in the known universe. Millions of gates, billions of worlds, all connected by human technology. The initial budget is 50 trillion galactic credits, added Prime Constructor Helix 9. Every civilization is contributing. The project timeline is 100 years. Dayun sat down slowly. A year ago, these same beings had tried to stop her from building a single wormhole generator. Now they wanted to spend 50 trillion credits to connect the entire universe. There's one condition, Speaker Vexitharian continued. Humanity must lead the project. We have learned that when humans say something is possible, it usually is. After the message ended, Daun and Teho sat in comfortable silence, watching ships pass through the wormhole gates. Remember when this all started? Teho asked. When they told us it was impossible and we had that one little vote at the Galactic Council? 847 to 1, Dayun replied. We were the only ones who thought wormholes could work. Now they want us to connect the entire universe. Funny how things change. A chime indicated an incoming message. This one was from Bora in her laboratory. Boss. Bora's excited face appeared on the screen. I just had an idea about parallel universe communication. What if we don't try to send messages between dimensions? What if we teach the dimensions to talk to each other directly? Dayun and Teho looked at each other and started laughing. Let me guess, Dayun said. It's impossible? Completely impossible, Bora confirmed, cheerfully. The mathematics don't work, the energy requirements are ridiculous, and the materials we'd need don't exist in any known reality. Sounds perfect, Daun replied. When do we start? Tomorrow. I already have Jin Wu working on transdimensional metamaterials and Minho is designing the prototype equipment. Hyejin is trying to figure out how to communicate with beings who exist in completely different dimensions. After Bora's message ended, Daun walked to her window and looked out at the wormhole gates. Each one represented a triumph over impossibility, a victory of human determination over alien certainty. But the most amazing thing wasn't the technology itself. It was how the galaxy had changed. Young alien scientists now approached problems the way humans did, asking, how can we make this work, instead of, why won't this work? The phrase impossible engineering had entered dozens of alien languages. Universities across the galaxy taught courses on human-style innovation. Most importantly, the species that had once laughed at human ambition were now dreaming bigger dreams than ever before. The Vorthak were planning cities that existed in folded space. The Luminari were trying to create living energy that could think and feel. The hegemony was building machines that grew like plants and dreamed like poets. Humanity had given the galaxy more than wormhole technology. They had given them the gift of believing that impossible things could become possible. A soft chime announced another incoming message. This one showed a young alien scientist, one of the crystal beings from a species Daun had never seen before. Director, Park, the being said in perfectly pronounced human language. My name is Student Crystal Velnara. I am 8 years old by your time measurement. I have been studying your impossible engineering techniques. Hello, Velnara, Daun replied. What can I do for you? I have been thinking about time travel, the young crystal being said. My teachers say it is impossible, but I remember what you taught us. Impossible just means nobody has figured out how to do it yet. Daun smiled. That's exactly right. So, I was wondering, Velnara continued, would you like to help me figure out how to do it? Daun looked out at the wormhole gates again, each one a doorway to adventure and discovery. The galaxy was full of young minds like Velnara, minds that refused to accept limitations, minds that dreamed of making the impossible become real. Yes, she said. I would love to help you figure that out. Because that's what humans did. When, faced with the impossible, they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. And now, thanks to their example, the entire galaxy was learning to do the same. The age of impossibility was over. The age of human-inspired dreams had just begun. And the EI Universe would never be the same. The great hall of Kepler Prime buzzed with alien voices. 12 different species filled the massive room, each one looking very different from the others. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like walking rocks. They all came here, for one reason: the monthly Galactic Council meeting. Elder Vorthak walked slowly to the center of the room. His old body moved like a tired snake. He was over 1,000 years old, and everyone could see it. His green scales had turned gray with age. His eyes were cloudy but still sharp. "Brothers and sisters of the galaxy," Vorthak said in a voice that sounded like wind through dry leaves. "Today I must speak of something very old, something very important." The room became quiet. When Elder Vorthak spoke, everyone listened. He was the oldest being in the galaxy. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched stars being born and dying. Vorthak lifted a black stone tablet above his head. Strange writing covered its surface. The writing glowed with a soft blue light. "This is one of the obsidian tablets of Zephyria," he said. "It is older than most of our civilizations, older than our oldest memories, and it carries a warning that we must not forget." A young Krillian warrior named Vextar laughed from his seat. His red skin was covered in battle scars. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Old fool," he said loudly. "What can some old rock tell us that we don't already know?" Other aliens in the room started to whisper. Some agreed with Vextar, some looked worried. Vorthak's cloudy eyes turned to look at
Vextar.
"This old rock," he said slowly, "tells us to never wake the sleeping giant of Sol 3. Never disturb the humans when they sleep in peace." The room exploded with noise. Aliens laughed, shouted, and argued. The humans? The peaceful little humans? Why would anyone need to worry about them? Vextar stood up. His massive body towered over everyone else. "Humans?" he roared. "Those weak little creatures? They have been quiet for 300 years. They spend their time growing plants and looking at stars. Their military is tiny. Their ships are old. We could crush them like bugs." Many aliens in the room nodded. They all knew about humans. Humans were nice. They traded fairly. They helped other species when they could. They asked permission before settling on empty planets. They were no threat to anyone. But Vorthak shook his head sadly. "You do not understand," he said. "The warning is not about their weapons. It is not about their ships. It is about what happens when peaceful creatures become angry." Far away from Kepler Prime, on a space station near Mars, Dr. So Young was working late in her lab. She was a human scientist who studied alien life. Her long black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her brown eyes were focused on her computer screen. "Strange," she said to herself. She was looking at intercepted alien communications. The messages were coded, but she could read parts of them. Words like target, strike, and harvest appeared over and over. She picked up her communication device and called her brother. Commander Hunwoo was the leader of Earth's defense fleet. He was stationed on a military base on the moon. "Hunwoo," she said when he answered. "I think we might have a problem." Her brother's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired. His uniform was wrinkled like he had been working for many hours. "What kind of problem?" he asked. "I've been watching alien communications for weeks. Something big is happening. Ships are moving, resources are being gathered. But I can't figure out what they're planning." Hyunwoo frowned. "Which species?" "The Krillians, mostly. But others too." "And brother?" She paused. "They keep mentioning human colonies." Back on Kepler Prime, the council meeting was getting heated. Vextar was now standing in the center of the room, shouting at Elder Vorthak. "Your ancient tablets are nonsense," Vextar yelled. "Humans are farmers and dreamers. They have no warrior spirit. They have forgotten how to fight." Other Krillian representatives joined him. They all agreed. Humans were weak, their colonies were easy targets, their defense fleets were small and spread thin across many systems. "Look at the facts," said General Thax, another Krillian leader. "Humans have 37 colonies across 4 star systems. Each colony has maybe 10,000 to 2 million people. They have no major military bases, no fortress worlds, no secret weapons. Their biggest warship is smaller than our scout ships, added Commander Keltar. They build ships for exploration, not war. They study plants and rocks. They write poetry about sunsets. These are not dangerous beings. Elder Vorthak watched them argue. His old heart felt heavy with worry. These young warriors did not understand. They saw human kindness and thought it was weakness. They saw human peace and thought it was fear. Listen, to me, Vorthak said, but his voice was lost in the noise. The Altarian ambassador, a tall blue-skinned woman named High Consul Nira, stood up. Elder Vorthak, she said in a voice that cut through the noise. Can you tell us more about these tablets? Where did they come from? The room became quiet again. Everyone wanted to hear this story. Vorthak nodded gratefully. The tablets were found on a dead world in the Outer Rim. The planet had been destroyed by some great war long ago. Nothing lived there except for one small building made of black stone. Inside we found 12 tablets. He paused and looked around the room. 11 tablets told stories of great battles. They spoke of species that conquered whole galaxies, mighty empires that ruled millions of worlds, warriors so powerful they could destroy stars. And the 12th tablet? Asked High Consul Nira. The 12th tablet was different. It was smaller, simpler. It had only one message. Never disturb the humans of Sol 3. They are kind, and when kind creatures become unkind, nothing in the universe can stop them. Vextar laughed again. And you believe this fairy tale? I believe, said Vorthak slowly, that whoever wrote these tablets had met humans before, long ago, and they learned something that we have forgotten. What's that? Asked someone from the crowd. That the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look dangerous. On Earth, in the capital city of Seoul, President Yoon-ji was having her morning coffee when her communication device rang. It was Commander Hyun-woo calling from the moon. Madam President, he said, we have a situation. My sister has been monitoring alien communications. We think someone might be planning an attack on our colonies. President Yoon-ji set down her coffee cup. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been president for 6 years and had kept Earth peaceful and prosperous. How? Sure are you? She asked. Not completely sure yet, but the signs are there, ships moving, resources being gathered, and they keep talking about human agricultural worlds. President Yoon-ji was quiet for a moment. She looked out her window at the peaceful city below. Children were walking to school. People were going to work. Everyone felt safe and happy. What? Do you recommend? She asked. Let me put our fleets on alert. Quietly. And let me talk to General Taemin about activating some of our old protocols. The president nodded. Do it. But keep it quiet. I don't want to cause panic over something. That might be nothing. Back on Kepler Prime, the council meeting was ending. Most of the alien representatives were leaving, still laughing about the old tablets and their warnings about humans. But Vextar stayed behind. He was talking quietly with other Krillian leaders. They were making plans. The human, agricultural, worlds are perfect targets, Vextar said. They grow food for half the galaxy but have almost no defenses. We take those worlds and we can starve the humans into surrendering. And after that? Asked General Thax. After that, we take their technology, their knowledge, their resources. We become the dominant species in this part of the galaxy. Elder. Vorthak watched them from across the room. His old heart beat faster with fear. He wanted to warn them again, but he knew they would not listen. As he walked slowly back to his ship, Vorthak looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were living their peaceful lives, growing their crops, raising their children, studying the universe with wonder and curiosity. They had no idea that war was coming for them, and the galaxy had no idea what would happen when it arrived. The ancient warning carved in stone had been ignored. Soon everyone would understand why it had been written in the first place. The sleeping giant was about to wake up, and when it did, the universe would never be the same. The universe had one warning: never disturb humans. They ignored it. The attack came like lightning in a clear sky. Captain Ji-hoon was drinking his morning coffee on the bridge of his ship, the Baek-do. It was a small patrol cruiser that protected the farming world of New Jeju. The planet below looked peaceful and beautiful. Green fields stretched as far as the eye could see. 2 million people lived there, growing food for dozens of other worlds. "Sir," called his communications officer, a young woman named Heejin. "I'm getting strange readings on long-range sensors." Ji-hoon put down his coffee cup. "What kind of readings?" Before Heejin could answer, the space around New Jeju exploded, with enemy ships. Hundreds of them. Big ones, small ones, all painted in the red and black colors of the Krillian war fleet. "Battle stations!" Ji-hoon shouted, but he knew it was too late. The Baek-do was just one small ship. The Krillian fleet had enough firepower to destroy a moon. Ji-hoon watched in horror as enemy missiles streaked toward the civilian transport ships that were trying to escape from the planet's orbit. "Sir, they're not targeting military ships," Ye-jin said, her voice shaking. "They're shooting at the civilian transports first." Ji-hoon's hands gripped his command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. He could see families on those ships. Children, old people. They had done nothing wrong except live on a farming world that grew food. "All ships protect the civilians," he ordered on the general channel. But there were only 3 other patrol ships in the system. Against hundreds of Krillian warships, they might as well have been trying to stop an ocean with a cup. The first civilian transport exploded in a ball of orange fire. Then another. And another. "Send a message to Earth," Ji-hoon told Heejin. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with anger. "Tell them New Jeju is under attack. Tell them the Krillians are killing civilians on purpose." Similar attacks were happening across human space. 37 colonies in 4 different star systems. All at the same time. All targeting the places where families lived and worked. On the farming world of New Busan, a teacher named Min Jung was reading to her class of 6-year-old children when the bombs started falling. She gathered the scared children in her arms and led them to the underground shelter, singing them a lullaby to keep them calm, while death rained from the sky above. On New Incheon, an old farmer named Dong-soo watched Krillian soldiers burn his wheat fields. 50 years of work turned to ash in minutes. His grandson, little Woo-jin, hid behind him and asked, "Grandpa, why are they doing this to us?" Dong-soo had no answer. Humans had never hurt the Krillians. They had traded with them, shared technology with them, even helped them when their own colonies had problems with disease. On Earth, the emergency alarms rang in the Capitol building. President Yoon-ji ran to the Situation Room, still wearing her pajamas. General Timon was already there, his face pale as he read reports from across human space. "How many?" the president asked. 37 colonies attacked. Initial casualty estimates are over 5 million civilians dead or missing, General Timon said. His voice cracked on the numbers. President Yoon-ji sat down heavily in her chair. 5 million. Mothers, fathers, children, grandparents. All dead because someone decided humans were easy targets. "Are our defense fleets responding?" she asked. "Yes, but they're spread too thin. The Krillians planned this perfectly. They hit us where we're weakest, when most of our ships were on patrol or in maintenance." Commander Hyun-woo's voice came through the communication system from his base on the moon. "Madam President, I'm getting reports from my sister on Mars. She says the Krillians aren't trying to conquer our colonies. They're trying to destroy them completely." President Yoon-ji closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, they were hard as steel. "General Timon," she said, "I want you to activate Protocol 7. General Tamon's eyes went wide. "Madam President, are you sure? Once we activate that protocol, there's no going back. They killed 5 million of our people in one day. They targeted civilians, children." The president's voice was quiet, but everyone in the room could hear the anger underneath. "Yes, I'm sure." On Mars, Dr. So-young was working frantically in her lab. She had captured several Krillian communication signals during the attacks. As she decoded them, her hands started to shake. "No," she whispered. "They can't be that stupid." Her assistant, a young man named Jun Ho, looked over her shoulder. "What is it, doctor?" The Krillians planned this attack specifically to cause maximum civilian casualties. They wanted to make us angry. They want us to fight back. But why would they want that? Junho asked. Dr. So-young looked at him with sad eyes. Because they think they know how humans fight. They studied our history. They know about our old wars. They think we'll send our armies to attack their armies. They think it will be a long, slow war that they can win because they have more ships. And they're wrong. Dr. So-young started typing rapidly on her computer. They're very wrong. They don't understand what they just did. When humans were fighting each other, we had rules. We tried to protect civilians. We tried to be honorable. She pulled up files that were marked with high security classifications. But when someone attacks our families, our children, our innocent people... She paused. Junho, have you ever heard of the Ghost Protocol? Junho shook his head. It's a military program so secret that most of our own generals don't know about it. For 300 years, while we've been peaceful farmers and explorers, we've also been preparing for the day someone would try to destroy us. On a military base deep underground beneath the mountains of Korea, a young lieutenant named Sul-ki volunteered for something she barely understood. Are you sure, Lieutenant? Asked Colonel Yujin. The Ghost Protocol changes people. Once you're in, you can never go back to being a normal soldier. Sul-ki was only 22 years old, but her eyes looked much older. Ma'am, my little sister was on New Jeju visiting her friend. The transport ship she was on. Sul-ki's voice broke. There were no survivors. Colonel Yujin nodded sadly. She had heard too many stories like this in the past few hours. Very well. Report to Lab 7 for enhancement. Across human space, similar conversations were happening. In hidden bases, in secret facilities, in underground factories that the galaxy had never suspected existed. The Krillians had made one critical mistake. They had studied human military power by looking at the ships and weapons that humans showed to the galaxy. They thought that was all humans had. They were wrong. While humanity had been peaceful traders and farmers for 3 centuries, they had also been quietly preparing. They remembered their own violent history. They knew that someday, someone might try to hurt them, so they had built things, hidden things, terrible things, things that violated several galactic treaties about weapons that were too dangerous to use, and they had never told anyone about them. President Yunji stood before the cameras to address not just Earth, but all of humanity across the galaxy. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. My fellow humans, she began. Today, the Krillian Empire attacked our colonies without warning. They targeted our civilians, our children, our families. Over 5 million of our people are dead. She paused, letting the number sink in. The Krillians wanted to see what happens when you attack peaceful humans. They wanted to see what we do when our families are threatened. They will learn. In hidden bases across human space, soldiers who had trained for centuries in secret began to move. Ships that looked like ordinary cargo vessels opened up to reveal weapons that could crack planets. Factories that supposedly made farming equipment started producing instruments of war. Admiral Wansik, commanding the secret fleet hidden in the asteroid belt, received his orders. His ships were painted black and carried no markings. They had been waiting for 300 years for someone to give them a reason to exist. All ships, he said into his communicator. Operation Sleeping Giant is now active. Remember, we are not fighting for territory. We are not fighting for resources. We are fighting because someone decided to murder our children. He looked at the tactical display showing Krillian positions. Show them what human warfare really looks like. Back on Kepler Prime, Elder Vorthak sat in his ship, watching news reports of the attacks on human colonies. His old heart was breaking. He could see where this was leading. His communication system chimed. It was a message from the Krillian High Command sent to all council members. The human pest problem is being solved, the message read. Resistance is minimal. Human colonies falling as planned. Total victory expected within 1 month. Elder Vorthak closed his eyes and whispered an old prayer in his ancient language. It was a prayer for the dead, but he wasn't praying for the human dead. He was praying for the Krillians, because somewhere in human space the sleeping giant was opening its eyes, and when it fully woke up, The galaxy would learn why the ancient warning had been carved in stone. The universe was about to discover that the most dangerous predator is not the one that looks scary. It's the one that looks harmless until you hurt its children. 72 hours after the first attack, the galaxy learned what human anger looked like. War Chief Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bloodfang. He was reading reports from the human colonies his fleets had attacked. Everything was going according to plan. The weak human defense ships had been crushed. The colonies were burning. Soon, the surviving humans would surrender. "Sir," called his communications officer, a young Krillian named Zaltan. "We're getting strange readings from the outer system sensors." Vextar didn't look up from his reports. "Probably just space junk, or maybe some human cargo ships trying to run away." "No, sir, these readings are different. They're showing massive energy signatures, and they're moving fast. Really fast." Now Vextar looked up, his 4 red eyes focused on the sensor display. What he saw made his blood freeze. Ships were coming out of empty space. Not just a few ships, hundreds of them. They were black as night, and moved like hunting wolves. They appeared on sensors for just a moment, then vanished again. "What kind of ships are those?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. They don't match any human ship design in our database." The first Krillian fleet to encounter the mysterious ships was the 7th Attack Squadron, commanded by Captain Grixnall. His ships were returning from destroying a human mining station when space around them suddenly filled with black vessels. "All ships, battle formation," Grixnall ordered. But before his ships could move, the human vessels opened fire. The weapons that hit Grixnall's fleet were unlike anything in the Krillian database. They cut through Krillian shields like they weren't even there. They melted armor that was supposed to be impossible to penetrate. In less than 5 minutes, 12 Krillian warships were nothing but glowing debris. "Send a distress signal," Grixnall shouted, but his communications officer was already dead. His ship was already dying. As the bridge filled with fire and smoke, Grixnall had time for one last thought. These weren't the same humans who had been peaceful for 300 years. Admiral Wansik watched the destruction of the Krillian fleet from his command ship. His vessel looked like a normal cargo hauler from the outside, but inside it was packed with weapons that violated half the galaxy's warfare treaties. "Target destroyed, Admiral," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Han Newell. "No survivors." "Good," Wansik said coldly. "Move to the next target, and remember we leave no witnesses. I want the Krillians to wonder what happened to their ships." On the farming world of Europa, engineer Minho worked frantically in one of humanity's hidden underground factories. Above ground, Europa looked like a peaceful agricultural colony. Below ground, it was one of the most advanced weapons manufacturing centers in the galaxy. "How long until the new ships are ready?" asked his colleague, Engineer Gayun. Minho wiped sweat from his forehead. He had been working for 18 hours straight. "The first batch will be ready in 6 hours. These new designs are incredible. They can move 3 times faster than anything the Krillians have." "How did we develop this technology without anyone knowing?" Minho smiled grimly. "We've been working on it for 300 years. Every time we traded with alien species, we studied their technology. Every time they shared scientific knowledge with us, we improved on it. We just never showed anyone what we could really build." Gayun looked at the massive ships taking shape in the underground shipyard. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Why did we keep it secret for so long?" "Because," Minho said, "we learned from our own history. The most dangerous predator is the one that looks harmless. Let everyone think we were just farmers and dreamers. Let them underestimate us. And when they finally attacked us," he gestured at the war machines around them. "Surprise. Captain J. Young commanded one of humanity's stealth destroyers, the Silent Thunder. Her ship was designed to be invisible to enemy sensors. She could strike without warning and disappear before the enemy knew what hit them. Target acquired," reported her tactical officer, Ensign Kyung-min. "Krillian supply convoy, 12 ships." "Any escort vessels?" J. Young asked. 6 heavy cruisers. They think they're safe because they're deep in Krillian space." J. Young smiled without humor. Show them how wrong they are. Fire all missiles. The silent thunder unleashed a barrage of advanced torpedoes. Each torpedo was guided by artificial intelligence and could think for itself. They found weak spots in Krillian shields that no one knew existed. They struck with precision that seemed impossible. In 30 seconds, the entire Krillian convoy was destroyed. The 6 escort cruisers never even saw what killed them. Open a channel on all Krillian frequencies, Jae Young ordered. When the channel was open, she spoke in a voice as cold as space itself. This is Captain Jae Young of the Human Defense Force. You wanted to see sleeping humans wake up. This is us still stretching. When we fully wake up, there won't be enough left of you to bury. The message was heard across Krillian space. Fear began to spread through their ranks like a disease. On the Krillian homeworld, high command was in chaos. General Thack stared at reports that made no sense. Entire fleets were disappearing without sending distress signals. Supply convoys were being destroyed deep inside secure space. Their most heavily defended bases were being attacked by ghosts. How many ships have we lost? Thax asked his aide. In 72 hours? Over 300 vessels, sir, including 7 entire fleets. And how many human ships have we destroyed in return? The aide looked uncomfortable. None, sir. We haven't even seen them except during attacks. They appear, destroy our ships, and vanish. Thax's claws scraped against his command table. This is impossible. Our intelligence said humans only had small patrol fleets, outdated ships, primitive weapons. Sir, another officer interrupted. We're receiving reports from our spies in other parts of the galaxy. The Altarian Empire is pulling their fleets back from human space. The Nexari Federation is doing the same. They're all saying the same thing, which is that we have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. President Yoonji addressed the human population again. This time, her message was broadcasted across the entire galaxy. Every species could hear her words. People of Earth and the colonies, she began. 72 hours ago, the Krillians attacked our peaceful worlds. They murdered our families. They burned our homes. They thought we would be easy victims. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the weight of barely controlled fury. They were wrong. For 300 years, we have been peaceful. We have traded fairly. We have helped those in need. We have asked for nothing except to be left alone to build our lives in peace. On screens across the galaxy, alien leaders watched and listened. But we have not been naive. We remembered our own history. We knew that someday someone might try to destroy us. So while we grew our crops and explored the stars, we also prepared. In the Galactic Council chamber on Kepler Prime, Elder Vorthak watched the broadcast with growing dread. The Krillians wanted a war. President Yoonji continued. They will have one. But this will not be the kind of war they expected. This will not be armies fighting armies on battlefields. This will not be a contest of honor between warriors. Her eyes seemed to look directly through the camera at every alien leader watching. This will be extermination. We will hunt down every Krillian who participated in the attack on our colonies. We will destroy every ship in their fleet. We will burn every military base they have built. And we will not stop until they no longer exist as a threat to any peaceful species. On the Krillian homeworld, War Chief Vexistar watched the human president's speech. For the first time since the war began, he felt afraid. She's bluffing, he told his officers. Humans don't have the military strength to threaten us. But even as he said it, reports kept coming in. More fleets destroyed, more bases attacked, more Krillian soldiers who simply vanished without a trace. Lieutenant Sulki, now enhanced by the Ghost Protocol, led her strike team through a Krillian military base on the planet Korvash. The base was supposed to be impregnable. It had shields, automated defenses, and 5,000 soldiers. Sulki's team of 12 humans moved through the base like death itself. They were faster than any normal person, stronger, more precise. The Ghost Protocol had changed them into something between human and machine. Objective secured, Sulki reported, as the last Krillian defender fell. All enemy personnel eliminated, base weapon systems destroyed. Any survivors? Asked Colonel. Eugene through the communicator. None, Sulki replied. There was no emotion in her voice. The Ghost Protocol had taken away her ability to feel mercy for enemies who killed human children. Across Krillian space, similar raids were happening. Human special forces appeared from nowhere, destroyed their targets completely, and vanished. The Krillians began to understand that they were not fighting the same species that had been peaceful farmers and traders. They were fighting something else entirely. Something that had been hiding behind a mask of kindness for 300 years. 6 months after the first attack, War Chief Vextar knelt in the ruins of his command bunker. The 24 hours had passed. He had not surrendered. The humans had come anyway. Lieutenant Sulki stood over him, her enhanced eyes showing no emotion. Behind her, the rest of her Ghost Protocol team secured the bunker. They had moved through the planet's defenses like they weren't even there. War Chief Vextar, Sulki said in a voice as cold as space. You are charged with the murder of 5 million human civilians. How do you answer? Vextar looked up at her. This young human woman had single-handedly destroyed his entire planetary defense grid. She looked like she could be someone's daughter, but she moved like death itself. I was following orders, he said weakly. Whose orders? The High Command. The Council of Warlords. They decided to attack your colonies. Sulki nodded. Where are they now? Vextar's forearms trembled. Dead. All dead. Your people found them last week. Then you are the last one responsible for the colony attacks, Sulki said. The last name on our list. She raised her weapon. Wait, Vextar cried. I surrender. I surrender unconditionally. Sulki paused. You had 24 hours to surrender. You chose to hide instead. Please, Vextar begged. I was wrong. We were all wrong. We didn't understand what we were doing. You understood perfectly, Sulki replied. You wanted to kill human civilians to make us afraid. You succeeded in killing them. You failed to make us afraid. She pulled the trigger. The last Krillian responsible for the colony attack ceased to exist. On Earth, President Yunji addressed the galaxy one final time. Her speech was broadcast to every world, every ship, every space station in known space. People of the galaxy, she began. The war is over. The Krillian Empire no longer exists as a military power. Every individual responsible for attacks on human civilians has been found and eliminated. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Some of you are wondering what comes next. Some of you are afraid that humans will now conquer the galaxy. Let me be clear. We have no interest in conquest. We never did. On the Altarian homeworld, High Consul Nira watched the broadcast with her military advisors. They had been preparing for human invasion for months. Their fleets were hidden, their worlds fortified. We want the same thing we always wanted, President Yunji continued. To live in peace, to explore the universe, to trade with friendly neighbors, to raise our children in safety. But, her voice became harder, we will never again pretend to be helpless. The galaxy has seen what human military power looks like. This was not a demonstration. This was justice. But it serves as a warning to anyone who might consider threatening innocent people. General Taemin appeared on the screen beside the president. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his eyes held the weight of the war he had just won. Effective immediately, he announced. Human defense fleets will begin regular patrols of all major trade routes. We will protect merchant vessels from pirates. We will stop raiders from attacking peaceful colonies. We will ensure that no species suffers what we suffered. High Consul Nira turned to her military advisor. Are they serious? They're going to police the entire galaxy? The advisor, a veteran of many conflicts, nodded grimly. They have the power to do it. More importantly, they have the will. And after what happened to the Krillians, who's going to try to stop them? On the former Krillian world of New Krillos, human peacekeepers supervised the construction of a new settlement. The surviving Krillian civilians worked alongside human engineers to build homes and schools. Commander Hyunwoo walked through the construction site with the Krillian civilian leader, an elderly female named Velara. She had lost her 3 sons in the war, all of them soldiers who had fought against the humans. Commander, she said quietly, why are you helping us? After what our people did to yours. Hyunwoo watched human and Krillian children playing together near the construction site. The children didn't seem to care about the war their parents had fought. Because, he said, you didn't attack our colonies. Your sons did. Your government did. Your military did. But you didn't. Velara's eyes filled with tears. We raised them to be warriors. We taught them that strength was everything. We were wrong. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. You were wrong, but your children don't have to be. Dr. So-young published her final report on the war 6 months after it ended. The document became required reading in military academies across the galaxy. The Krillian-human conflict, she wrote, demonstrates several important principles about warfare in the modern galaxy. First, never assume that a peaceful species is a weak species. Humans maintained the facade of limited military capability for 3 centuries, while secretly developing the most advanced weapons and tactics in known space. Second, never target civilians to provoke a response. Species that protect their non-combatants will respond to attacks on them with unlimited force. The Krillians discovered that there is a difference between war and extermination. Third, never ignore ancient warnings. The obsidian tablets of Zephyria contained accurate information about human capabilities. Elder Vorthak tried to warn the Galactic Council. They should have listened. Her report included detailed analysis of human military technology. Reading it, alien military leaders realized that even now they had only seen a small portion of what humans could do. It is this researcher's conclusion, Dr. So-young wrote, that humanity could defeat the combined military forces of the entire galaxy if they chose to do so. Fortunately, humans prefer cooperation to conquest. However, any species considering aggressive action against human civilians should remember the sleeping giant is no longer sleeping. On Kepler Prime, the Galactic Council held its first meeting since the end of the war. The chamber looked very different now. The Krillian seats were empty. In their place sat human observers, quietly taking notes. Elder Vorthak, now over 1,000 years old and very tired, addressed the assembly one last time. The ancient tablet spoke truth, he said in his voice like wind through old leaves. They warned us never to disturb the humans. We ignored that warning. The price was the destruction of an entire empire. He looked around the chamber at the representatives of 12 major species. The tablets contained other warnings too, about other sleeping giants, other peaceful species that should not be awakened. I suggest we start listening to them. Ambassador, Insu rose from the human observer section. Elder Vorthak is wise, he said. The galaxy contains many species. Most want only to live in peace. Humanity will ensure they can do so. He activated a holographic display showing the new reality of galactic power. Human fleets patrolled every major shipping lane. Human bases monitored every potentially dangerous system. Human peacekeepers protected vulnerable worlds. This is not conquest, Insu said firmly. This is protection. We will not rule you. But we will not allow anyone to rule you through fear and violence, either. A representative from the Vegan Confederacy asked, what if we don't want human protection? Insu smiled politely. Then you are free to protect yourselves. But if you attack innocent civilians of any species, you will answer to us. If you prey on the weak, you will face human justice. If you start wars for conquest or cruelty, we will end them. The chamber was silent. The age of might making right is over, Insu continued. The galaxy now has guardians. We never wanted this responsibility, but since it has fallen to us, we will bear it. Admiral Wansik stood on the bridge of humanity's newest dreadnought, the Peaceful Dawn. Through the viewport, he could see the construction of New Geneva Station, humanity's first major base in the galactic core. The station was massive, larger than most cities. It would serve as headquarters for human peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. But more importantly, it would serve as a reminder that the sleeping giant was awake, a reminder that humanity protected the innocent, a reminder that the galaxy had new rules now. Lieutenant Sel Ki, now promoted to Admiral Sel Ki, commanded her own peacekeeping fleet. She patrolled the Outer Rim territories, protecting colonies and trade routes from pirates and raiders. Her ships were still painted black. Her crews still moved like ghosts. But now they fought to protect rather than to punish. In her ready room, she kept a small memorial to her sister, who had died in the attack on New Jeju. Next to it, she kept letters from children on worlds her fleet had protected. Children who could sleep safely because they knew human ships watched over them. The war had changed her. The Ghost Protocol had changed her. But at her core, she was still human. Still someone who believed that the strong should protect the weak. Still, someone who remembered that kindness was not weakness. On Earth, in the quiet city of Seoul, President Yoon-ji walked through a memorial garden. Stone walls bore the names of every human civilian who had died in the Krillian attacks. 5 million names. 5 million lives cut short. She placed flowers at the base of the memorial and spoke quietly to the names carved in stone.